What up, you fluffy bastards? My name is Liquid Blitz, and update 12 for PUBG on the PC is coming very, very soon, or already out if you're watching this late. Now, it's possibly the biggest update yet. There's a bunch of new stuff and a bunch of weapon balance changes, so there's loads to go through. Now, my usual style is to put all the relevant info on screen so you can read it at your own pace, and you don't have to listen to me if you don't want to. But this time, there is simply too much to fit on one screen, so I've put it on two screens. Above my head are two timestamps you can use if you want to sort of skip ahead or skip back to read everything on both screens in your own time. The first screen is about new things being added, and the second screen is all about the sort of specific detailed weapon balance changes, all the weapon buffs and nerfs, etc. Anyway, no more time wasting. Let's do this fast.
Let's do this hard.
First things first, we have a new vehicle, a speedy sort of muscle car called the Mirado. Now this thing looks awesome. It has 4 seats and it's pretty damn fast, making it perfect for sort of looting multiple places quickly with a full squad. Their description is that it's best for blazing down a highway, sort of aka smooth surfaces. But as you can see in the gameplay in the top corner, it's actually pretty fast accelerating over rough terrain as well. Now, in the test server for this patch, I've driven this vehicle loads because it looks awesome, and I love the sound of it. It's probably my favorite sound of any vehicle in the game. It's awesome. But unfortunately, there's one big, major downside. It's only on Miramar. It's not on the original map, which it sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, moving on, we have a new weapon, the SLR. Now, this is a semi-automatic DMR like the SKS and the Mini 14. It shoots 7.62 ammo with a mag size of 10 or 20 when extended. Now, the SLR, it does more damage than the SKS, but it also has more recoil than the SKS. And now, with the nerf in damage to the SKS, which we'll get to later on, the SLR, it's kind of halfway between the SKS and the Mark 14 from the care package. It's almost exactly halfway between those two weapons in every way. Anyway, let's move on. There are 6 new attachments, 2 scopes, 3 grips, and a duck bill. Duck bill. The first new scope is the 3x. It has a fixed zoom of 3x, and it's a common world drop. You can also fade the reticle from red to black and black to red. And then the second new scope is the rarer 6x scope. Now this isn't a fixed zoom. Like the 8x scope, you can actually zoom this in and out between 3 and 6x zoom level. Now I've used both of these new scopes a lot in the test server, and the 6x scope seems to be better than the 4x in every single way. I mean, obviously, because it's zoomable between 3 and 6, you can see at 4x zoom or around there, with some sort of leeway either side, zooming in and out, and the peripheral vision around the scope seems to be just as good, if not better. So in my opinion, the 4x scope, even though I love it, it's kind of been rendered pointless, at least until you find a 6x scope. Anyway, next we have the new shotgun attachment for the pump shotgun and the S12K, the duck bill. The bill of the duck. It gives you a better, tighter vertical spread, but it makes horizontal spread worse, so not sure how to feel about that. It might make head and neck shots a little bit easier, but honestly, I hate shotguns and never use them, so I wouldn't know. Anyway, next we have 3 new grips. Now, after using all of these and painfully trying to figure out which is best to use in different situations, I have to say I do not know why they've added 3 new grips for a total of 5 different grips. I mean, maybe sort of 1 new grip I would understand, but why 3? There is literally no need for 5 different grips. It's too much choice. Anyway, first of these is the lightweight grip, which speeds up your recoil recovery, but it makes vertical and horizontal recoil worse. So if this thing has any use at all, and that's one big if, it's probably best used for long-range, slow tap shots when you need the recoil to come back down faster after each shot. But I mean, if it makes the recoil worse to begin with, what's the point? Anyway, next is the thumb grip. Now, this reduces vertical recoil by a lot. I've actually done a little test. It's a good amount of vertical recoil reduction. Fantastic, but it increases the horizontal recoil and slows down recoil recovery. I miss the days when attachments only helped the weapon and did good things. Anyway, lastly is the half grip. Now, this seems to be the best, at least from reading the description. It seems like a bit of an all-rounder. It reduces vertical and horizontal recoil, which is fantastic, and it actually speeds up recoil recovery, but it does increase weapon sway. So the half grip sounds like it's clearly the best, at least for sort of close range where weapon sway doesn't matter. I'm going to have to do a lot of testing and make a new grip comparison video, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, before we move on to the second screen, all about the weapon changes, let's look at the overall most important changes, because there's some big things I haven't talked about yet. First of all, assault rifles have been crushed, nerfed in every single way. But again, more on that on the second screen in a minute. Secondly, we finally have map selection. It took long enough. You can now finally choose one or multiple maps. So thank God for that. Next, and this is a game changer right here. Level 3 helmets can now only be found in care packages, and you are guaranteed at least one helmet in every drop. So, frankly, get ready for a hella load more Kar 98 headshots. It's gon' get crazy up in this bitch. Next, we have a change that I actually personally suggested a long time ago. Adrenaline syringes now spawn in the world as regular loot. They're not just in airdrops anymore. And they also reduce the cast time from 8 seconds to 6. So from now on, boosting is just a little bit easier. Now, next big change on this list is a big one. It might not sound too big, but it actually is. DMRs, like the Mini 14 and the SKS, they can now use assault rifle attachments like the compensator, magazines, suppressor, which technically doesn't actually make any sense because they just wouldn't fit. But, you know, this is PUBG. What you gonna do? So yeah, just keep in mind that this means the AR suppressor and SR suppressor will both fit on the DMR, so they're actually now much easier to suppress and compress, etc. Anyway, next is a pretty small thing, but it is quite impactful. Frag grenades are 50% heavier, so you can't carry nearly as many, and previously their damage was actually based on knockback only, and now I didn't know that. But now, after this update, the damage is actually dealt by the explosion, and there is no knockback anymore, so there's no more getting pushed out behind cover from a grenade. Anyway, lastly for this screen, and this is quite a fun one, using the 0 up and 0 down keybinds, you can actually change the reticle shape and color on the red dot site, as you can see in the gameplay. The shape can only be changed on the red dot site, but on the holo site and the red dot site you can change the color. With the 0 keybinds, you can actually also, on the 3x scope, you can toggle between red and black. I mean, I welcome customizability as much as possible, so I like that change. Anyway, it's time to switch that screen. Pew! And now look at weapon changes. Now, before we get into this, keep in mind that they can and probably will change these values at any moment. As of the day I'm recording this, all of these numbers are correct right now, but just take them with a pinch of salt. Across the bottom in white are all the damage changes before and after, so that's nice and helpful. And up the side we've got all the specifics, so let's go down this list starting at the top. First of all, we have pistols. They have straight up buffed the damage of every pistol, and by a lot, like most of them now do 5 more damage than before, which is nuts. The revolvers now do more damage than all assault rifles and even the SKS. So early game should now be a bit more impactful. Moving on, shotguns. Now, even though I hate shotguns, I have to admit, they have buffed the shotguns pretty well. Limb shots now do more damage, which is actually a big deal because the spread of pellets always ends up hitting limbs. So more damage can only be a good thing. The only negative thing they've done to the shotguns is the pump and double barrel now do slightly less damage. But more than making up for that fact is that they are also reducing the pellet spread by a straight 25%, which is a crazy buff. Anyway, moving on, SMGs. Now this is where shit gets fun. Now, I'm not sure why, but the very first thing they've done is limb shots now do 20% more damage than before. The Uzi, the UMP, and the Vector all now do slightly more damage. They have decreased the vertical recoil on all SMGs. On top of that, they've reduced all recoil and scope sway when moving and aiming down sight. And then on top of that, all SMGs now aim down sight and sort of back out of sight faster than before. So SMGs have been super buffed. Now, this is where things turn bad, and this is where I come to you with a heavy heart. Assault rifles have been crapped on from a so terrible height. All the 5.56 rifles now do 1 less damage per shot. Straight up nerf. On top of that, the SCAR M16 and M416 have a 30% longer reload time, and it is really noticeable, by the way. The AKM has a 10% longer reload time. Now get this, they've increased both the vertical recoil and horizontal recoil for all assault rifles, except the AKM, because that was already really bad. Oh. They've also slowed down the recoil recovery for all ARs, all of them. Oh, and yeah, as if all of that isn't enough, do you remember when they made it so that you couldn't put the 8x scope on the M16 a while back? Yeah, now, all assault rifles. That being said, you can put the new 6x scope on them. And actually thinking about it, now that you can put the 6x on the M16, you're actually extending the range of the M16 a bit more, because before that was limited to the 4x. Anyway, let's move away from that cesspit of shit. DMRs, they now do more damage to the head, body, and limbs. Now, much to my dismay, because it was one of my favourite weapons, they've reduced the damage of the SKS by a lot, from 57 to 53, which is bigger than any damage change for any of the other weapons in this patch. So this little change right here is a big kick to my balls personally. On the flip side, let's go back to the positive. The Mini 14 and VSS have had a small damage increase, so that's nice. But now let's flip it back to the shit side again. All DMRs now have more recoil than before. And their recoil recovers slower than before. In other words, what these changes really mean is that the DMRs are going to be much harder to spam quickly from now on. Anyway, that's pretty much it for all the major changes, just a few extra little changes. They've actually upped the damage of the DP28 and the M249. Now this is the biggest deal for the DP28 actually, because now the DP28 will kill with 1 fewer shots to the chest against level 2 and 3 armor than the AK. And because of that one small little difference there, the DP28 may well be the more favourable option over the AK now. Now, as with the assault rifles, you can no longer put the 8x scope on LMGs either, so now the 8x scope is only for sniper rifles. Oh, and the last little change, the crossbow now reloads slightly faster. So that's it for this video. Those are all the big main updates that you need to know about. There are various other little things and sort of bug fixes, etc. So I've put a link in the description to the patch notes just in case you want to read everything yourself. These changes are big. I mean, you can see it for yourself, especially the nerfing of the assault rifles. I think that's going to shake everything up. You're going to find more and more people running SMGs and DMRs now that they're much stronger, and in the case of DMRs, they're much easier now to tool up with the attachments, since you can just use the AR attachments. So let me know what you think of these changes in the comments below. I'm actually interested to know what you feel, because I just have mixed feelings right now. Like this video if you liked it, like this video if you didn't like it, and subscribe if you want to see more similar content. I livestream regularly on Twitch, by the way. There is a link in the description over to my Twitch channel, so I hope to catch some of you guys over there. Liquid Blitz, out!